want to flame them for playing goats,
Flame?
you don't talk to Flame.
Flame's in chat. He wants to come in. He wants to come in, guys. Let's bring him in here. Let's bring him in.
Let Flame,
Flame, defend yourself.
We're bringing in Flame. Okay, I don't have Flame. Wait, who? Bring him in. Don't you have him as friend, ZP?
Yeah. I'll
Bring Flame in. Bring him in.
Yep.
Let's hear it. We have. This is a public forum, guys.
I do want to make one point though. Before bringing him in, just say that. Fuck it. I'll just bring him in.
Okay, nice.
Okay,
nice,
that was
nice. Thanks, ZP. ZP stands up on his soapbox and then he sits down. He's ready to fucking narrate, and he's done.
Hello, is this thing on?
Hello, Flame. What do you have to say, huh? What's going on?
Well, I guess, like, I don't know, there's two sides to this, right? There's, like, the idea that you can not go goats, right? There's, like, this idea that you can play DPS. But can you really play DPS? I think there's an argument that we should have played Ana goats on Attack Paris, but that's, like, a different idea. But I don't think Zen goats was the play. But that's a Zen versus Ana thing. So I think if we had gone Ana, we probably could have capped A. And if we cap A, I think we cap B, but not capping A is like the more.
What I don't understand is I feel like people were upset you guys played goats when you actually like looked good on.
We did. We played really well, and like we
So
held them on second. We held them on second, and then we like could have taken second on attack, but people forget that Bumper hit like 3 5-man Earth Shatters, and like you can't really like. I mean, you can practice, but like when that happens, you just like kind of take it, you know. Like sometimes you're Reinhardt.
Take it, boy.
Muma generally doesn't get Earth Shattered. That's like a thing. Like we usually are pretty good in the Earth Shatter wars. So like. I don't know. We lost Eikewall. That sucked. And then Paris, we were like not Paris, Rialto, we were like teetering with the idea of running DPS on defense. But I think everyone was feeling confident in the goats, so we just like ran the goats. But like, we didn't look bad on the goats. We held them for 3 minutes on their attack. It was just like our attack sucked. Like closing out against them is really hard because they're really good at staggering. But the narrative, I think my biggest problem is that I hate the narrative that the analysts or the talent think that they can coach better than the coaches. And so, like, I'm not really defending myself or my team. I'm really just, like, defending Tyrong and, like, the players. Because, like, everyone kind of... Like, I don't fucking decide the strats. Like, it's not me who's...
Yeah, that was my point, actually, right before you joined.
It's, like... But the idea, like, there's some teams and there's some coaches who, like, crumble under stress. Now, Tyrong's not one of them. But there are definitely coaches that, like, take the heat. And then they're like, oh, my God, the entire public thinks I'm trash. But, like, the idea that the casters think that they could coach a team better than the coaches is, like, offensive at, like, its core. And so, like, I don't care if they think, oh, maybe Outlaws could have played DPS. Like, that's a fine argument to have. But to say, like, Outlaws 100% should have been playing DPS this whole time, and their goats was never going to be Vancouver's goats. It's like, yeah, like, maybe our goats wasn't going to be Vancouver's goats. But do you waste 2 weeks of practice on DPS? Like, I don't think we look like we got severely outclassed by Vancouver.
Okay, listen.
Yeah, exactly. Is it worth the energy to, like, play DPS for a week and then, like, go back to goats?
No,
like,
I need to have this argument on Twitter.
Listen, I was about to say, that's cool, but why do you care?
Yeah.
Why do I care what?
About what people say.
Oh, I don't, because it's not me. I don't give a shit, right? As like for personally, I care that like it negatively impacts my coaches. Like I'm very protective of Tyrong, and like that's really it. It's not like I don't like the players don't care.
This is
the players
getting
just, like,
real
okay,
spicy.
But I think it gets to everyone's head when like your coach Tyrong gets very emotional, and like that's just a thing. And like it can't just be like everyone's barraging him with this like stupidity of just play DPS forehead. Like,
so he does crumble.
He gets no, I'm saying he gets emotional, but like you don't want people in a negative mindset after that match. Like I don't think anyone played poorly. Like I don't think you can like blame anybody. I think Arhan played pretty well. I think Muma played well. I think like Raucus, everyone played well. We just lost. But like how many people going into that match were like Outlaw's gonna win this? Outlaw's gonna make this close. Like how many people?
I did. Actually, I did. I did. I
good.
said you guys were gonna. I said it was gonna be a 3-1 for Titans. It was gonna be close and people.
That's good. That's good. But my point was like, do you think that we were gonna win? Do you think we were gonna win with like Dante on Pharah and Arhan on like Tracer? Like probably not. Like I don't know.
I will say Arhan actually looked pretty good on Tracer.
Arhan played. Yeah, Arhan's good.
He actually looked pretty good on Tracer.
When you go into scrims throughout the weeks, you don't play DPS. Like nobody's like playing DPS comp. It's like very rare. There's like some teams that try it every now and then, but then like they go DPS, then someone else goes Moira Sombra Goats, and then your DPS kind of gets shit on. So like, do you really want to play DPS? Like the counters to DPS are much easier to execute than the DPS itself. So like if we had rolled out with like Pharah, they would have just gone Soldier. It's not like they don't play Soldier Goats. They like play Soldier Goats all the time. They've shown Soldier Goats in matches. So like, I don't know. I just like. I hate the idea. I just hate when the casters like spread toxicity that doesn't need to exist solely to like prove that they're right when they're just wrong. Like that just annoys me.
Okay, all right. Let me counter your argument. So you remember when the fucking the what was the fucking picture they put up super bad. They have me like they cherry pick stats. I'm like 7 fire strike. Like who's
Yeah.
talking about this? First of all, I don't like. You gotta go out
Yeah,
there.
you don't
gotta
care.
start.
You
gotta
don't
fucking,
care.
You gotta start slapping kids around and let them
That's
know they're wrong.
different. That's different. I'm not the one who's offended here, like, right? Like, I don't actually, like, realistically, at the end of the day, it's like Monty and Bren are gonna argue with me, and I don't really care. But the point is, like, I hate the idea that the public hive mind gets this, like, connotation that Outlaws coaches are bad or something. Like, that is what I'm defending. Because the idea of that is stupid. Like, I'm down with the idea that, like, oh, like, if the cast was more like, oh, you know, maybe if they ran DPS, they could have had more success. That's cool. But tweeting like, it's absolutely atrocious that they would try to run DPS goats into Vancouver when Vancouver's so good. Every team's been trying this for 2 years. No one's had success. So why do you think you would? It's like, you don't go into the match like, you can go into the match thinking you can win. But if you don't go, like, you can't, we didn't go into that match like, oh shit, we're going to shit on Vancouver's goats. It was like, we can take the Bumper versus Muma fight and Raucous on the Ana versus Twilight Ana. And like, we had decent odds and we like won fights. But I just hate the idea of like spreading this narrative that the coaching staff was bad or that we didn't do everything in our power to win and that we were like actively throwing by playing goats into them when like that's just like an awful narrative to be pushing. Like Superbad was dumb, but it wasn't.
True.
But like anyone inside, I guess, knew that it was dumb, and then you just dumpster them anyway. But it's very hard for like a coach to be like, you can't like. There's very few coaches that I feel like can flex after a match. It's like rare, especially in goats meta. Like you have to come up like the Torbjorn.
Resident sleeper, resident sleeper, resident sleeper, resident sleeper, resident sleeper. Resident sleeper, resident sleeper.
Which is like why it's kind of really frustrating. Because like we spend so much time on strategy. Like every team spends time on strategy. You're not going to see Philly go out there with like some crazy comp they didn't practice. Like you're not going to see teams run DPS. In like Chengdu should be beating Vancouver if that's the logic, right? Like, but that's not happening.
I'm siding with Flame.
Like Chengdu's always going to be better than us at DPS comp because they run it like nonstop. But if the best team at DPS comp can't beat the best team at goats, why would you like try to gimp yourselves? It's like literally, it's like bringing arrows. It's like bringing a bow and arrow
Weird
to a
champ
gunfight.
right,
It's
finger
like, yeah, you
door,
can maybe
flame
win,
weird
but,
champ right, finger
like,
door,
you'd have to
flame.
play so perfectly. You'd have to like hit every arrow. It's like insane. I don't know.
All right, well, you know, I think that's fair, Flame.
Holy shit, we get it.
I think that's very fair. Myself, I'd recommend the strategy of not saying anything at all, but that's why I'm not
agree.
GM.
I mean,
I'm not
listen,
GM, right?
Well, the thing is, like, you get tilted right after a match. You're like kind of fired up. You're
Resident
like, oh, shit, we
sleeper
can win
flame
this. Like,
is
you're in, like,
mad
this
because
pump mentality
outlaws
and,
are
like,
bad.
you got a good night's
Resident
sleep.
sleeper.
Like, I was just
the
fired up.
post-gym
But like,
pump,
I just,
of course.
yeah, it's like the post-gym pump, but it's after a match. So like, I felt you feel good, but my point is like,
You were
I
feeling
just hate the-
vascular after
Losing
that?
an argument
You
to
were feeling vascular,
Reddit,
ready to
losing
take
an
it to Twitter?
argument to Twitch chat.
I wasn't ready to take
Losing
it.
an
I don't
argument
care
to
about
Super
Twitter. Like, Twitter's
Peplomau.
fine. It's like I hate the idea of the casters spreading bad takes.
Chat more concerned
and,
with
like,
watching
people treating it as
Toronto
gospel.
get
Like,
clapped
that
than
annoys me.
listening to someone's
Because it's easy
opinion.
to say super bad,
On the inside of
but it's
Owl
not easy to
Megalith.
back up super bad. And it's like easy to say Outlaw should have ran DPS comp, but none
Flame
of
Resident
the analysts are
Sleeper,
ready to justify
STFU.
like on a strategic level, like how we're gonna beat Vancouver's goats on Iconwald B with DPS comp. They're just in their head saying, you know, oh, it worked on Mecha Base, so therefore it'll work on Iconwald. And like, the public perception of how Overwatch is played is like so
Resident
fundamentally
sleeper,
wrong.
resident
And maybe
sleeper,
that's, like, the
resident.
fault of content
Really
creators and
good
people
at
that don't exist
rationalizing
anymore
a poor
because you can't make
decision.
content anymore. But it's like such a terrible angle to be pushing that like teams are losing because of their coaching staff. It's like, I thought Tyrone did a great job
Stop
this week.
cheering chat.
But the
Stop
analysts and
cheering
the
chat.
casters pushing
Greater
this
than.
narrative that our coaching was the problem is like so inherently awful that I feel like I need to defend it because like having my coaches and my players getting hate mail all week. As if like we tried to
It's
throw that
funny
match by
that
running
Houston
DPS is
were
like
actually super bad
like
Pepalov.
obnoxious. Like the idea of it's just so obnoxious, and it's like super venable, right? Because it's not like it's Reddit that's posting these memes. It's not like Reddit's posting, oh, they should have ran DPS, and maybe Reddit is posting that they should have ran DPS, but we don't care about that. It's like these paid professionals are like
Jesus,
attacking
these
the
good
careers of
sounds are
people
so
in my
annoying.
organization who don't deserve that at all, when like their takes are just so wrong that it's like stupid. It's like why are you pushing this narrative? Like, what are you gaining out of this? Do you want to sound right? Like, what do you actually gain by saying Outlaw should
to
have played
repeat
DPS?
what he said? I missed
Like, are you
all of
actually
it
arguing
because I
that
fell asleep.
you would have been a better coach of the team this week? Like, that's
Isn't
how I
that
view
their
it.
job though, to analyze what they think should have happened and what you guys should have done and what you did wrong and what you
That's
We
could
could
about
have.
to
But it's
screw
different.
you
It's
duck
different
in
than
all
saying
these
Outlaws could have
vids.
ran DPS and maybe had a better success rate, and actively saying Outlaws is actively, this is stupid, this is an awful idea. There's like a very large gap there between how people perceive it. It's like, yes, I agree. Maybe there were maps, maybe like Paris we could have maybe taken with a DPS comp on attack. I agree with that. But that's different than saying the idea of them running goats is atrocious and awful. Like, there's a difference between saying Super could have played bad, or Super could have played better, or Super could have blocked that shatter, and Super played like trash. It's like a different. The way it's presented is very different, and like I have like a problem with the idea that the casters can like attack the coaching staff,
30-minute
and the coaching staff can't fight back.
I don't care.
Like I'm not the one who
stuff,
coached the players to like run goats this week. It's like that's just not like I don't have a stake in the whole like strategy talk. So like I can defend the strategy if I think it was right, but
I said shut the frick up, chat.
I don't like the idea that like Tyrong's like some like management takes like Reddit far too seriously, and like there's been people who have been fired because of Reddit takes, and like that's happened. Like everyone knows it's
Tell
happened.
Flame next time.
And like I don't want people
play
thinking Tyrong's a bad coach because the analysts think Tyrong's a bad coach, or that Tyrong didn't coach the team to his best capabilities this week. It's like if I don't know. It's like if Shock had gone
This
out
whole
with
discussion needs to
DPS
be a whole
comp and then
episode
lost
of
to
Fresh
somebody,
Nuts.
and then someone's like, "Oh, this is awful. They should fire Junkbuck." Like, it's like what?
I mean,
He doesn't know he lacks the
I don't know.
critical
I think
information.
at the end of the day, no matter what this is, it could be fucking. We could play some footy in the backyard. We could be fucking playing Overwatch. At the end of the day, there's always gonna be public ridicule, public outcry. People have always gotten in
Flame
trouble
is turning
for
my
public,
brain
you know,
into the
whether it's right or
world's
wrong. It's just
smoothest
the way it
marble,
is
please
sometimes.
help.
And I think at the end of the day, you have to realize that no matter what people say, you know what's different, and you can't really pay them any mind. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me.
This
It's
guy
easier for
sounds
me
like
than it is for
Flame.
other people. I just feel like I need to defend some people that don't defend themselves because they don't feel like they can. But it's a different. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. I'm not going to say that I should have. I'm not saying that I should have gone to a Twitter battle because I probably shouldn't have. Like, obviously, in retrospect, I should have just like kept my mouth shut because now I have like people like Bren telling me that my tweets are trash when like he dresses like a girl and then tweets.
Oh shit! Okay.
Like okay.
Whoa,
dude,
repeat that.
but-
Repeat that.
Oh,
Repeat that.
oh,
One more time.
that's a
One more time.
Bren
I'm
tweeted at me that
I'm going
that
to
I
the
tweet like a
store.
Reddit user.
Hopefully he'll be
But I don't really
back
know what a
then.
Reddit user tweets like because his Twitter is arguably one of the worst in Overwatch League.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see. Flame. We have a direct
Flame
call
getting
out.
angry at
Flame
criticism
Bren
of
Twitter
his job,
war.
LULW.
Point
Okay.
being, the idea that the casters can attack the players or the staff of teams and they can't really defend themselves without getting ganged up on
Imagine
is
being
kind of
this
like
upset.
So
atrocious.
there is one point of clarification here, regardless of who's right or wrong, is that when you say attack, I mean there is the job of the staff to criticize what they're seeing to the best of your ability. Like
criticizing. There is a difference between criticism and attacking. Like we both know this. I can say ZP's
I'm bad.
analysis this
Oh,
game
yeah? Well,
was,
you dress
was
like a
subpar,
girl.
right? I can like be like ZP missed that team fight and it was bad. Like there's a difference between Kate Mitchell calling Hex's casting bad or whatever, and then like, which is I think what she did, right? It was something very much like
Yeah, she said that he
team
just
fights all the
misses
time. It was pretty much like
sequence.
it was like a straight up attack, right? It was like your casting is garbage. Like that was more or less the gist of it. It wasn't like I wish Hex had seen what I'd seen and like could have thought about this in a different way.
1, 2,
It's
3,
like
4, someone
very
please show
there's a difference
Flame
between like
the
a
door.
gray area and going straight black and white. And I feel like going straight black and white is not the job of the casters or the analysts. And if it is, it needs to be presented in a way that's a little bit more forgiving rather than just like creating
You
a hive
took it
mind
too
mentality
far.
that
Never
the
mock
coaches are
my
doing a poor
BRE
job and now
NJI.
everyone needs to
Right
attack them
finger
on Twitter.
door.
It's like very. I mean, the super bad thing was even mild, I would say, comparatively, because even the people on the desk were like, "Holy shit, why does this say this?" Like they laughed about it. They were like, "Who made this graphic?" It wasn't like. They
I
weren't
definitely
pushing-
laughed about it.
They weren't pushing the narrative like super's garbage. It was like what they were all like taken aback by it, I think. But that's different. That's like different than them being like. It's the same as like when people. I don't know. There was a match last week, I think. And I want to say someone on broadcast said something along the lines of, if you're looking to replace someone on Mayhem, you start with Zephyr. And I'm 99% sure that came out of a caster's mouth. And I thought to myself, like, that crossed a line. Like, that's definitely a line that's being crossed that I don't think should ever be crossed. But, like, once you get away with that, you can go as far as you want. Like, stuff like that is, like, so... It's just wrong. It's just, like, inherently awful. Like, how do you broadcast that, like, this player's career should be the next on the
Flame,
chopping
so
block?
boring,
Like, how do you
the
say
fire
that to the
burned
public?
out.
Like, that's so...
Why is he still
I feel like that's, like,
talking?
not okay. Like, imagine you're just, like, playing Super, and then someone's just like, yeah, if you're going to replace anyone on Shock, you start with Super.
Okay,
that literally happened.
Again, I'm going.
I'd say they're
gonna
wrong.
Say, like,
Because I'm nasty
I
at the game.
I
One way
agree.
or another, but
I agree.
again, to say traditional commentary in any sport goes along that way. Like, I'm not going to hold up this particular person as like a bastion of like great commentary or anything, but what do you think like Stephen A. Smith does, right? Like, if you look at any sport and commentators and analysts, etc., you will constantly see is like, is it time for X player to go? And that'll be a whole segment and otherwise. Again, not talking about like, is this right, wrong?
That's different. I mean, that's different than like the NBA broadcaster mid-match, or like the NFL caster mid-match saying like, it's different because people who watch the analyst segments are different. Like, it's a different audience. It's like a different take. It's like.
Esports doesn't have the hard divide though between.
I mean, Owl does.
Casters say.
I'm saying Owl has the difference between. Well, I'm saying Owl has the difference between like Watchpoint. I'm not like trying to attack the casters here. I just think it's like. I just think
the argument that like in the NBA it's like relegated to desks and shows, and then you don't have the people that are calling the game get into takes. That's also just a difference.
Well, yeah, but I would say sports. I would say sports is more established in the sense that when you hit like. I don't know what the word is. Like the GMs of a sports team, or like the presidents of a sports team, or the fans of sports teams in general, I would say are generally more in tune with sports than Overwatch. Like people understand.
You have not listened to the average sports fan, dude. The average.
No, I know, but I'm saying like the fundamental.
Let's go, LeBron James.
It's easier to see a mistake in football, I would say, than goats. From like the naked eye.
Hey guys, Flame here.
Like,
Red Brand's
my point was more just like I feel like the players get their careers attacked more than I would care to see
they crossed the line
in the Overwatch League, and that is like my general point, I guess. It's like there's no world where Zephyr can defend himself on Twitter. There's no like person who can go out and say Zephyr's a great player. But people now have this created narrative in their head that Zephyr is bad and Mayhem should cut him, and that came
Zephyr
from like,
has looked really bad though in.
What do you say when Zephyr literally has caused Mayhem to lose then?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
I'm going to
what do you say there? Zephyr really doing a good job donating the win to the enemy team. They should keep him on.
No, but it's not about the point. It's about the wording. It's less about like the point. Like obviously you can say Zephyr's underperforming. I don't think you say cut Zephyr. I think there's like a difference.
But people do say cut players in other traditional sports and that. So I guess for me is that I'm going to attack this from a just general sports commentary point of view rather than like specifics, because that's the only way I can, that's as someone that's also a commentator. But in other sports, people say cut this player all the time. Like that is a harsh judgment made by analysts.
But I would say analysts. Yeah, okay. I think again, there's people. The people who are saying that in sports are, like, I would say generally are more informed or have a better understanding of said sport. I think it's like.
Are you telling me Stephen A. Smith is well informed for the NBA, or that what's it called? Colin Cowherd.
Say that. I would say that
when Colin Cowherd goes on the show and says that this player should be cut, that's someone who knows what they're talking about. Like, I'd actually argue that esports people overall are generally a lot more informed than the average traditional sports analyst. Like, the reason why everyone is like basically worshiping at the altar of Tony Romo is that Tony Romo is like so much better than the average analyst in the NFL. But I would argue that overall the esports, like, where the average esports person is like a lot better than the average traditional sports.
No, but my point was, well, I mean, I agree with that. I was going more in the direction of like, do you think that the average?
Thank you for the new emote content, Flame.
I don't know what the word is. Like the stakes are different. I feel like Overwatch is a very tight knit community. Like there's only so many people that are on that subreddit, right? It's like between Twitter, Reddit, and I guess that's it. Viewers, there's probably like a pretty massive overlap. Like, there's not that many people who watch anymore. It's like, what, we're like 80K viewers. Maybe we had more. I don't know what the viewership was like.
I think it was well over 100K.
It was like 100 and... It's been like a steady 105 all day.
Okay, so 100 all day. The subreddit has however many people. It's not that many, but it's like, I think it's about 200. The point is, like, Overwatch is very tight-knit. I think sports fans, it's like a different thing. It's like audience's size and stuff. Like, I just feel like the Overwatch community in general is like very small, and like word travels way faster than people watching sports broadcasts. And I don't really think that sports is easily comparable because it's not generally kids in their like teens and like people who are very, I don't know what the word is.
I do think there's one argument here. Let me make the argument that I think you're trying to make, which is true to a degree, and maybe merits the idea of like how these things should be handled, even though I don't think there's any real solution. Is that
Please
I
get
would
flame
say
out of
that
my ear.
the management of teams in esports are much more sensitive to public opinion
Yes.
and in terms of making changes on their teams
Yeah.
than the average traditional sports team. Like the average traditional sports team.
Exactly. Yes.
does not
Okay.
give a
Yes.
fuck
That's
about
what I mean.
running
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I mean. The average traditional sports team's not going to care about Stephen A. Smith, right? But the average traditional esports team, people get fired because of Reddit opinions, and it's happened multiple times.
Okay, if that's
So
the point you're making, then
Tyron's not going to get fired, right? Like, there's no world where Tyron gets fired. But there
Whoa,
are
did he
other
just
people
call
who
us
aren't
all kids in
Tyron,
their
who I'm sure
teens?
could potentially get fired
That's
solely
actually
because of
pretty
like
offensive.
a situation like today where people are like, "Oh, this coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing. They obviously didn't want to win this match if they thought Goats was the match." Like,
Isn't that
that
a failure
is
of the
the-
organization though, and not
yes,
a failure
but
of Reddit?
that's a. I don't think it's a.
Why should we blame the public for being stupid?
I'm not blaming Reddit though.
Well, but the thing is, why should we blame everyone other than the people in charge of that person's job? Why? Why are we blaming everyone other than the person in charge of that person's job?
I mean, you can blame you can blame the people, right? I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying it's dangerous. I'm not saying that it's anyone's fault. I'm saying it's dangerous. Like I agree with you. It's not.
At the end of the day, if coaches get fired from casters' opinions and shit like that, like
And players, which has happened.
and players, then the fucking organization's at fault.
Yes,
Fuck the
agreed,
org.
agreed.
Like,
But it's happened. It hasn't just been like one. It's not like a one-off thing. Like it's happened a couple times. Like
also,
my
what
point
the-
isn't that the system's perfect. Like I agree that in a vacuum I shouldn't have tweeted at all. Agreed, 100%. But I think that like the idea that players' careers are on the line because of stuff like that. Like I think that there's a world where if like Overwatch League wanted to push a narrative that Super was trash, that over time people start looking for reasons as to why Super is trash, and they start like zooming in on everything Super does. But the point is that like the management in OWL right now on like the overall level in terms of like knowing the game and like understanding the game or like how the game flows and what's right, what's wrong is like pretty new. I'd say like pretty bad like overall.
Flame, I do think there's a solution here. Like regardless of whether people are right or wrong, like I'm just gonna point back to what's happened in the NFL and the Patriots law, right? Where the Patriots like have started out the season really bad at times, and literally every fucking NFL analyst in the book says the Patriots are fucking shit, like they're fucking terrible. And you know why it doesn't matter in the end? Because they end up fixing their shit, they go forward, and they end up winning the Super Bowl at the end. The easy solution here, if you do believe there's a disconnect between what people are saying and the reality, is the Outlaws just have to go forward and clap.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
I
the
mean, I
Outlaws
think
go
I'm
the rest
not.
of the
Yeah,
stage
but
goes 6-1, like then
I think
the
you're-
Outlaws
I think
win,
you're-
right?
I
And
think
if
you're
people are
arguing-
wrong on the analyst desk.
No, I
wise,
don't- I don't-
You've made them look bad by comparison.
Hey,
No, you're
players,
is,
arguing,
like-
you're arguing like a different
we all
point. Like I
play
agree that the
Overwatch,
obvious
like
solution
no one
to
plays
anyone saying that our
football.
Goats was bad or that we shouldn't run
We
Goats
have
is
a
just to
higher
limit
than
Goats.
average
Like, I agree.
understanding
But
of the
that's
sport.
that's
and
like
you're
less of
watching.
what the problem is, right? Like I don't on like an Outlaws level, this isn't like an Outlaws thing. Like I'm not really. This isn't like an Outlaws specific problem. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's not like I don't think anyone on Outlaws feels like they care. Realistically, maybe coaches getting overwhelmed or something is annoying, but from like my perspective, like I don't care if Reddit thinks that we're bad at Goats or that like we didn't play Goats well today, because like we probably could have played Goats better today, sure, but that's like different than the fact that like I feel like there's a fundamental issue with like the league when it comes to the way players are treated by the desk or by the casters, whatever, which leads into like bad situations for them solely because of like management that isn't in tune with everything.
Okay, so question: do you think that the analysts and the casters should be free of criticism of players and coaches, or
No.
they should not be able to criticize them? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Well,
No,
Flame
no.
is saying that they shouldn't be they shouldn't do it in a way that's degrading or mean-spirited or too harsh. But the thing is, who draws the line and like what?
That's what I was gonna say
like
next.
who
was
draws
where's
the line? there?
drawn?
Where is the line drawn exactly? And other than the caster come up saying like, "Fuck this guy! This guy is the worst. I hate his guts." But I don't think any caster has gotten to that point.
there's definitely lines, right? I'm not saying that there is a hard line that you can't cross, but I would say that there's obvious situations where you could say the line was crossed if the line existed, not that you could draw the line. Like there's definitely like extremes, right? That have
Do you
happened.
think there are examples? Do you think there are examples, clear-cut examples of the casters and analysts currently hurting a player's career directly?
I think that the direct statement I think you look to replace Zephyr is a terrible statement to make. I think
so. What should
I think though? Here's the thing though. I'll be honest. Like I generally avoid definitive statements, but in the Zephyr case, I have specifically said that on stream here because Zephyr has had so many bad points, and there's so many obvious examples of better off-tank players.
It's different though. I agree. It's different though.
Well, this is our personal stream rather than a national, the broadcast of the league.
Yeah, it's different.
But at
You're
the same time,
XD or some shit.
This is their opinion, right? And if they really think that Zephyr is the problem, then what else are they supposed to say?
Look, man, my point isn't that. I mean, my biggest problem is with the immaturity of the league in like a fundamental, everyone understanding the game and like the NFL is not going to care if Stephen A. Smith says Tom Brady's trash, right? Because
well,
they know Tom Brady's not trash. Well, whatever. Point being that like if an analyst comes out and says Jake's awful, right? Like I know better than to be like, okay, Jake's not bad, right? But like I mean, the casters can make arguments, that's fine. But like from the maturity of the league perspective, not every like management team is gonna have that like ability to like decipher, which is good.
Well, I mean,
and like I don't want to blame the casters for like that, but I would say that they definitely make it riskier. It's definitely riskier in Owl than normal, because even like LCS and I'm sure CS:GO is probably a little bit more in line. Like I would say that like management and teams have a better understanding, but I think that there's a lot of people in positions of power in the Overwatch League that like aren't in tune with like why GOATS is good or like why you run these comps or why the coaches